Hello, this is Christopher Dare. We're here finding your south, and what that means, it's the idea that on this journey, you have a path before you. You can take all the paths that everyone else takes, or you can take a path that's just for you, maybe something that God's called you to. Speaking of that, I have my dear friend here, Chaz Blackburn, who's gone on his own path in a way of following God that's been amazing.
Sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes it's taken me off the side into a trail that I didn't want to hike.
For a moment, how did you find this path that you're on? I mean, you're loving people, you're honoring people. I mean,
to be honest with you, I was successful in the world's terms in management, and I was running 3 states for Samsung, and I ended up moving back to Reno to be more of a full-time dad, and I just wasn't fulfilled. I was making good money. I had gotten the titles that you're talking about on previous episodes, but it wasn't fulfilling, and it wasn't that meaningful purpose. And I started volunteering at the winter shelter downtown back when we had the winter tent at Old Record Street. And I learned about chaplaincy because my dad is a hospice chaplain, and so I went through some chaplain training, and I just fell in love with loving other people and just serving in that purpose. And before you know it, God started opening incredible doors. But it wasn't until I really started surrendering everything in my life that He gave me some of the great opportunities that I have now.
That's awesome. Well, I got to say this, and I say this from someone who believes one of our greatest callings is to be a dad, a mom to our children. Yeah. And I want you to know I love how you're raising your daughter.
Well, thank you.
And you value your consistency. I just tell you, hats off to you. I'm not even wearing a hat, but if I had it, I'd take it off right now.
Well, I get way more out of it from my daughter than I do give her. She's amazing. Isn't it interesting? I truly believe, like Billy Graham says, one of the greatest contributions we can make to the kingdom in this world is just a child who loves the Lord. Amen. And is serving this world. So.
That is good. Well, we are talking about conflict. That's the piece that we're talking about. We have diamond moments we're talking about, and the idea of, imagine if you're listening on podcast, I actually literally in my hand have this like 3-pound diamond.
It's a pretty big diamond.
If this was real, we would not be talking, because I think I'd be off in some boat somewhere with my wife. But this is made of glass. But it does the same thing. If I look at this way and Chaz looks this way, we see different things because we have different perspectives. And so when we come down to the idea of conflict, it's something that I believe is neutral. I think it depends how you handle it. And the goal is to learn the other perspective. And I love talking about my wife on this, because one thing is I love my wife. She's actually the smartest person in my world. I trust her more than any other human being in this world. And with that said, there's times, and I was talking about earlier, that she doesn't agree with me. Can you believe that? I mean, hello.
That's a shocker. Yeah.
But when we disagree, especially on bigger things, she really gets my attention, not because I'm angry, but because I do think she's smart. I do value her, and I know her. So if she's seeing something in my life that's not where it should be or has questions, I want to see it so I can learn from it. And there are times, though, that I'm right. Yeah. There are times she's just dang wrong. But I have a question for you. How important is it to be right?
You're 100% right in this question. It made me think about what you said previously about walking the dog with your wife, and you went ahead and did it, even though you may have been able to win that, and so to speak. But how do you choose your battles? That's a great question. Mm-hmm. And I remember one time you had called me up, or I think I texted you, and then you gave me a call, and I was dealing with a politician who had lied about me. And actually the Reno Gazette reached out to interview me about it, and I felt I could win this. I had all the right sequence of events and the truth, and I knew that the truth was the truth. And I asked you, how should I phrase it, or what should I say? You said you should, you should say nothing. You should not talk to them at all, because it doesn't really matter. Pretty much is what you said. And so it got me thinking, what is the outcome ultimately in those battles?
Let's talk about that for a second, because someone listening might say, what do you mean, don't uncover the truth? Right? We want the truth. What's it, Doge or something, whatever? And then we're wrong. There is a place for the truth.
Right.
But there's also a time to decide, is this worth it, like you just said? Is it time to speak up? And I'd even say this, what is your motive for speaking up?
Right.
That's what I kind of come down to.
Good point.
And that's the question I think, hopefully I tried to get to that day. I might not have done a good job, but the goal is, what is your motive? If your motive is just to be right, then your motive is probably wrong. And because it comes back to this chess game.
Right.
are we on the same team or not? Now, don't get me wrong, I know how to win chess. And so if we're not on the same team, you're going down, brother, right? But if we're on the same team. But I don't know, what do you think?
I think you had said something on an episode you recorded previously about emotions, and emotions can help keep us safe to some degree because we, fear in a healthy form of danger or reverence is important. But I think the bottom line was that I was responding and wanting the truth to come out because I was hurt and it was emotional. It wasn't that this was going to benefit people that I served or what I was trying to accomplish. And so you're right. What is the outcome? Is it the motive of my heart from emotions, or is it to help others? And is it worth fighting?
Well, I think a lot of times people take truth, and I'm sure your truth was good, and I have a lot of truth I have a lot of things I'd like to say right now to a lot of people. I'm not in the office right now. I am decked with gasoline that I can pour on this, I could say this, I could do this. But the truth is, I want them to succeed.
Right.
This is our city. I want our city to succeed. I want to see our country succeed. I'm not here to tear anything down. And don't get me wrong, I don't believe they do it all right. At the same time, I want to see nothing but what's the best for this country, the best for our state, and the best for our city. We are on the same team, even if we don't act the same way or say the same things. Now, with that said, it doesn't mean I don't speak up, but my motive comes down to, and this is something as a Christian, it changes. So as a Christian, I'm an ambassador of Christ. I'm here to speak something, and there's times that God says, be quiet, it's not time.
Yep. I've seen you do that on social media. I won't say the incidents that were taking place, but I even brought something to your attention, and there were times that you didn't even say something, and I was like, what is he doing? But you know what? The motive of your heart, you're right. So yeah, that's a tough one to swallow.
Oh, it's tough. Well, and it comes down to, and I say this, so even if you're not a Christian, and I say this, what do you want to represent in the end? And like you and I get to deal with a lot of funerals and people at the end of their life. And so I've done a lot of funerals in my life. And at the end, I do this thing called adjectives, where I have everyone in the audience say an adjective about this person who died.
Interesting.
Oh, it's pretty
That's
cool.
really
It's a
cool.
pretty cool thing. Well, the only thing different.
I might borrow that.
Oh, steal it. Steal it away. The only thing different between one life and another is the adjectives given to it when it's over, right? That's other than that, we're flesh, we're human, you're bones, you got this, you might be more handsome than me, but that's just how God made it, right? So you kind of have this going on. But those adjectives make such a difference. What adjectives do you want them said about you?
Yeah.
That you won? He was always right. He argued to the point that is that what you want said?
Yeah, not me.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I want people to say I stood for truth.
Right.
That I spoke into things and created life. That I valued people. These are the things I want in my life. I want my kids to say things about me. What are some things you want said about you?
That I loved my family, and that I stood for truth, of course, but that I walked my talk, that I would actually put into play the cliche saying, practice what you preach.
Yeah.
I really want just to reflect God's light and love through my actions, and that's what I try really hard. I fail many times every single day. But I know as I get older, really, being next to people at their deathbeds, like you said, whether it's at funerals or taking care of people at hospice, what really matters at the end. It's not that you were right. It's the relationships that you built, how you contributed to lift others up. And so there's a lot of times that we should surrender, and even if we could be right or win, because it's not always a battle, And we have to get out of that mindset, is what I'm learning from the previous podcast episodes and just through my life, is sometimes we have to just surrender and, minimize the casualties.
The funniest thing I watch people do, and like I said, I'll come back to marriage because this is where I failed the most in some of these funny conversations. So there's times my wife wanted me to do dishes. Well, I was tired. I've been working all day. Not that she wasn't, but come on. I have an important job, right?
Is she a listener to your podcast yet?
I hope not. I don't know. She does, actually. Oh, she'll laugh. We've been married a long time. I'm speaking truth. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh. And I'd be like, and so finally I'd get up and do the dishes. But I'd do them and I'd be with an attitude. I'd be like making extra noise with the pots and pans or whatever. I'm doing the dishes. And, afterwards, you know, do it. And, you know, I never said these things, but you could tell by my, you know, are you happy I did the dishes? You know, in the end, I was so stupid. First of all, I still ended up doing the dishes. What if I would have just said, of course, dear, put down whatever I'm doing? I mean, I would have had like bonus points as a husband. I would have been like, woo, my husband rocks, right? What if even better, what if she didn't even have to ask? What if I just walked in the room and said, hey, go sit down, let me do the dishes?
That's a good point.
I mean, but it's so funny. We are so weird. Like we get like something in us that gets odd. And we do this with other people. I talk about my marriage, but those principles go all over the place. What if you're going to work and you're dealing with something? What if you knew that person, you know, like certain coffee and you just picked it up for them? Well, you could say, well, they're mean to me. Why would I do that? Because they're not in charge of you. Mm-hmm. You lead yourself. There is nobody. I believe this. I mean, my favorite people are really grumpy people who want to think they hate me. Like my wife, she'll tell you that, oh no, he's going to go, he's going after him. And the reason why is I love those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at Jesus and how he dealt with conflict and his love, you're right.
Huh.
I mean, it was just surrendering, and he still stood for truth, though, and that's what's incredible is he stood for truth, but he had a way of being able to be present with people and to not add fuel to the fire.
Totally.
And except for the times where it was appropriate, and there are those times that you have to stand up.
Oh yeah, well, standing up is appropriate, and there's times without question we do not move. We are immovable on what needs to be done. It's how we treat people. You can't say we value people over here and then turn and devalue this person, because then you don't value people.
Right.
You value only people who fit your wheelhouse. Oh, and then what happens when they mess up? So you easily can get to a place where you just devalue everybody because you devalue this group of people. So it's kind of this conundrum. Well, we're out of time again. We're going to come back for one more segment. And when we come back for the next segment, we're going to talk about the path forward, finding middle ground or common ground, and how do you do that? How have you done that? What are some examples? And we're having a great conversation here. We are at Lighthouse Coffee. Tell you what, get some coffee. It's great for you. Makes you live forever. God bless you. Have a great day.